Hey there, it's Sam with a Friday writing tip for you. And honestly, this video will be a little on the shorter side because I am learning and practicing how to be shorter with my writing. Hold on. Okay, there it is. Sorry, had a glitch where I couldn't see the video feed, but it's still going. Um, yeah, so I'm just basically going to share a writing tip with you. Not one you haven't heard before, but just kind of how I applied it and made it work this week, and encouraging you to do the same. Some of you know I've been working on cutting down my novel. This was my novel draft. Well, this is like 10 years ago when I first wrote it and put out a print-on-demand version, but it's thick. You see, granted the font is like 12 font. I probably could have done 10, but still, this version is like 600 pages. The draft was at one point nearly 200,000 words. Yeah, people have been telling me to cut it down, maybe even split it into two books and all that stuff, and I really envisioned it as one book, so I'm trying to keep it there. I'm not saying I'll never split it if it comes to that, but if that's what a publisher wants, maybe. But we'll kind of see how that goes. But I'm going to try to keep it as one book. But here's the thing: I talked to an agent. Like, this is over a year ago now because I've been dragging my feet on the editing process, and the agent encouraged me to really cut it down. Like, she was interested in the premise, but she encouraged me to cut it down. She said for sci-fi at a debut novel, 125K is probably a good target to shoot for. Some publishers will say even less than that. I've been hearing that from some of my friends, but I was told by one agent 125K, and I don't think I can cut it much lower than that. I mean, I'm having trouble even getting it that far. But I've been working on editing since then, since that meeting a year ago or whatever, and doing my best to cut it down. I still not quite there, but getting there. And I've been doing line edits in addition to cutting some scenes. So it's just wherever I can cut, just going through it again, trying to make it work. But yeah, so I made a decision this week to cut out a hefty section. I mean, not like huge. Well, about 6,500 words or so. I was at 150K before I started this, before the past week, and then now I'm at like 143K. So I'm not there yet. I still want to cut down about 18,000 more words in the next few months, but I'm getting there. So here's the thing. I have all these different characters, this ensemble cast of characters of seven seven important characters. I'd say maybe like four or five of these I'd call main characters in this first book, and two of them are background characters, two or three, but yeah, probably two. But my original draft told everyone's backstory. Like, there was a flashback chapter of everyone's backstory, or sometimes more than one chapter, and my editor, beta reader who read it. Her name, by the way, is Rebecca Flovin. I'm hoping to have her on a future video and talk to her and kind of show you a good beta reader and what she does. But anyway, my beta reader said like this is like all the Avengers movies, like all the origin movies and the Avengers combined into one. Like six of the Marvel Phase One movies combined into one almost. Like, meaning it's a bit much. I'm like, yeah, I see your point. I see your point. I got it. I told or last week I did a review of a book that I just read, the X Heroes series by Peter Clines, and I talked about how he did backstory well, and he had a superhero ensemble cast, but and tells backstory briefly without getting bogged down. Go listen to that video if you want to hear those specific tips. But I guess I was kind of writing off of that, and I came to a section of backstory, and I was like, you know what, this isn't helping. So here's the thing: these three in the front, or these two in the front. If you've heard any of my story, these are kind of my two main characters. If I had to pick, like I have I guess a secondary, I guess I have a primary and a secondary male and female lead. So those two are kind of near the top already. And these two on the side, Frostburn and Lady Light. Sorry, I'm looking at it with my screen. Are the secondary male and female lead. I had already cut out a chapter that had their backstory in it. Like there was a chapter that had their backstory. I don't remember how long it was. It was longer than it needed to be, and I'd already cut that out in my editing process, and that shaved off some words. But I was like, no, I really need the rest of them in there. Um, but anyway, came to this guy in the middle, who's Night Terror. He's one of my characters, one of my characters, and I've get his backstory. And I was like, you know what? It's really not helping. Like it interrupts the main action at a time that's almost the climax. and I was trying to whittle it down, but I was just like it's not that important. I've alluded to elsewhere what his backstory is. I mean, he is try to make it unique, make it more to it than this. But I mean, he lost a loved one, like many superheroes have done, and so he lost a loved one to crime, and so he became a crusader and fought back. I'm like, I feel like with some allusions and just what the reader knows about superheroes already, we can kind of get that. And I was just like it's an interruption to the main story, and it's not really helping anything. And it was in chapter 18, which is like a climactic point. I was like, you know what? I'm trying to cut words anyway. Let's just cut this whole thing, cut out 6,500 words, and my story is lighter. Um, I do still have probably more backstory than someone say more than I need. These characters, these two in the front, and I guess him too, kind of Neuron and Miracle and Ruby. Their backstories are kind of all intertwined, and because these two are the main characters, the main, the secondary, or I guess the primary male and female leads, I have not cut their backstories yet. Some would say maybe I should. I don't know, but I haven't yet. We'll see. But these three in the second row are kind of less major, and I originally wanted all the backstories together because spoilers, minor spoilers, for when you eventually read the book, one of them dies in the first book, and I was like, well, wouldn't it make more sense to have the backstory in the first book before that character dies? But I just realized it wasn't working, and I just needed to cut it, so I've cut out backstories for I guess, three of my major but less main characters, and I mean, Frostburn and Lady Leia are interconnected. Their origin story is together, and like, but like I don't know. It felt weird for them to be the only ones that didn't have a backstory. So now that Night Terror, now that cut out his backstory too, it's kind of like, oh well, it kind of makes sense. I'm focused on the backstory of the major characters, but not all the minor characters, or not all the lesser characters. Um, I feel good about it. I feel like my novel's still, I mean, I need to cut a little bit more, but I feel like that was a good choice and moving in a good direction. But of course, the question asks, well, how is everybody going to know the backstory? Won't someone be curious? Um, so when I cut it out, I mean, I don't mean that I deleted that section forever. I mean, I put it in a separate document, and even if I hadn't, I have old copies too because I've had many drafts of this over the years. But I have that text if I want it. I've mentally been compiling a list of like something I could eventually release in a short story anthology. These short stories would mostly be scenes, sometimes self-contained backstories that I cut from book one. I did write one new short story recently in this universe that was not in a previous draft of book one, but it would mostly be scenes that I like on their own and that maybe are fun for character development or backstory, but they really did not advance the plot of book one. And so I've cut out several of those now. Maybe need to cut a few more, but I've cut out several already. And maybe one day I'll put those in a short story anthology. I don't know, or who knows? Publishers are different. I mean, when and if I get to the point where I'm talking to a publisher, I can tell them, hey, I have backstory for this character, but I cut it out because it was too long. And if they say, yeah, the novel doesn't work without the backstory, you kind of need that. Who knows? Maybe we can figure out a way to add that in a condensed version and cut something else. Not sure yet. I mean, so I'm not saying it's permanently gone. I'm not saying no one will ever read it. I'm just saying I cut it out of my first draft, or I mean not my first draft, but my main draft that I'm trying to put together, and it made the whole thing a lot lighter. So I'm still on the journey. I'm still working on getting there, but I made a big cut, and I think it's going to help. So you know how they say, kill your darlings, cut your favorite scenes, and all that stuff. I know it's hard. I've been struggling with it for over a year to struggling to cut things that people tell me are not working or are not fitting, but I did it, and I think it's going to help. So just my encouragement to you today: cut the things you need to cut. It'll be better for your novel. Your novel will be better for it. And again, don't throw them away forever unless you really don't like them. But keep them somewhere else and see if you can do something with them one day. But cut them from your novel. And make it concise, and that's just how things are these days. That's how it's going to work. That's how it's going to sell. Okay, thanks for listening. I hope that helps you. I hope it helps me too. Keep up the good work with your wedding, and have a wonderful weekend. Thanks, guys.